Hey guys, so I'm slipping this video in, or I'm filming it right before one of my comic classes. So that's why I'm in this classroom. And because I've got to get started soon, I'm going to go kind of quick on this one. But this lesson in our Myth of Ur series is kind of my favorite. The principle that I'm going to talk about here has been one of the most valuable to me in my own personal life. So in the story so far, Ur is killed in battle. His body is thrown on the funeral pyre, and it doesn't burn. And then he wakes up, and of course, when he wakes up, all his fellow soldiers are like, "Where have you been? What's been going on? How are you still alive?" And so Ur begins to tell the story of what happened while he was dead. And he basically is telling them, here's what happened to me in the afterlife. And the really interesting thing about the story that I think is kind of unusual is that he says, okay, well, my spirit left my body, and then the spirits of all these other dead soldiers left their bodies, and we started traveling for days. And so usually in a story like this about what happens in the afterlife, it's like the spirit leaves the body, and then you see the angelic beings, or you see the tunnel of light, whatever happens immediately. But in this particular story, there's no immediate occurrence. There's traveling. And I think that's, for a story like this, that's kind of a odd choice, dramatically. But I think there's significance to that, or at least we can draw significance from it. And that significance is personal development, spiritual development, you becoming your actualized self doesn't happen in a straight line. Like, you're not here, the old you, and then you travel a straight line to the new you. It's not that simple. It doesn't happen that easily or that directly. Instead, what Carl Jung talked about was an idea called circumambulation. So here's you, and here is your actualized self, all the things you could be. And so you don't travel to it straight, you don't do a straight line. Instead, what you start doing is you start making circles around it. You start circling that self, and the circles get tighter and tighter and closer until finally you get to it. And he called that circumambulation. And it's an idea from religion. If you think about things like Islam, where you're moving towards this point of Mecca, you're on a pilgrimage towards it. And so you would get to this place where this altar is, and you start on the outside of the chamber the altar's in, and you would move around the outside of the chamber and get closer and closer, smaller circles. So this idea that you don't approach divinity directly, but instead you kind of make your way to it progressively, and that's what happens when we're becoming our self-actualized self. And so the reason I found this such a valuable lesson, for me, there have been so many points in my life where I've been like, oh, this is the thing, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is who I am. And then a month later, you're like, that wasn't it. And that can be really disheartening when you think you've arrived at the moment, but then you found out you haven't. And so you're like, oh, okay, this is it, this is who I am, this is what I'm supposed to be. No, it wasn't. So then you keep looking, and then you get to here, and you're like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to be. Nope, that wasn't it either. So then you try it again here, and you try it again here, and you try it again here, and you try it again here. And so even though each of those things wasn't the thing, they have gotten you closer and closer to what is the actual thing. And I think people need to know that you don't need to put this pressure on yourself of immediately figuring out what does my actualized self look like, that it's a process, and that it's a process where you figure out gradually more and more things about yourself. And in doing that, you get closer to your actualized self instead of just going from not it to it. it's not that simple. And so even though it's not that simple, I think this is a very encouraging idea that if you've gone through a process of becoming, but you're not there yet, that's okay. That's kind of how it's supposed to work, is that we don't often get it right the first time. As a matter of fact, we get a lot of things wrong the first time, the second time, third time, fourth time, but eventually, through all those processes of learning, we get there and we get it right. And so I'll upload a PDF about this. I think as I'm speaking, I haven't quite uploaded last week's PDF, so it'll go up, and then the PDF for this will go up. And I also want to say there won't be a video next week because my family is taking some time off together, and we're putting aside all the stuff we're working on. We're putting aside all our projects, and we're just going to relax. We're just going to spend time together. And so I'm really excited about that. I apologize that there won't be a video, but the stuff that's on there so far, if you want something to focus on, just, kind of recap and go over and see maybe what new insights you can have about what we've talked about so far. But at any rate, I love you guys. I'll be thinking about you guys. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and talk to you then.